All right, everybody, here we are. Good morning. We're back. We're back with our good friend, the Bay Ragni Show. We're live this Friday, and we have the one and only, and truly, there is one and only. And I consider this man probably one of the hardest working men in the world of entertainment, Mr. John Schneider. John, good morning, and how are you?
Hey, I'm fine. I'm working right now. I've got
See?
my this is my hair for a movie we're doing called To Die For. And as we were talking off the air for a second, I was over getting ready lighting a scene we're going to shoot today, and my alarm went off, and I thought, "What is that? What do I? Oh my gosh!" And I ran over here. I'm like this, and I ran I ran over here, and now here we are. So
And here we are.
I'm doing well. My wife is doing better today. She I don't know if you know this or not, but she has a broken back from racing dirt track cars. So if you're going
Really?
to break your back, that's a better story than you slipped on a banana peel in a parking lot. So she's feeling better today, and we're getting ready to leave for West Virginia tomorrow to do a film for somebody else for a couple of days. So yeah, I'm pretty crazy busy, but I love every minute of it.
So now, last time you talked to us a few months back, you told us how you were racing them. I didn't realize your wife is racing them as well.
Yeah, yep, she races too. Although I think she now she's made a promise to God that she's only going to watch. She's not going to race anymore. She may drive her race car as kind of an exhibition we'll do, because she drives for. She calls it the oh gosh, the it's something ribbon. Shoot, I wish I could. She drives for cancer. She drives for cancer
Okay.
research and for cancer patients for the driven ribbon. That's it. Driven to eradicate cancer from our lifetime and from our planet. So far nobler thing, I think, than supporting electric vehicles. But so that's what she's doing, and that's what she was doing when she hit the wall. And so she said, "No, I'm not going to do that anymore." But I still am. It takes
There
takes a
you
lot more than a concrete wall to knock any sense into me.
Well, knocking sense, but how do you have the sense? I mean, this is like coming from a person that does nowhere near as much as you, but does a lot. Like I always wonder, and I admire and look up to a person like you, where you're doing so much. Whether it's like you're doing your movies, um, putting out a new album, dirt track racing, and then I say to myself, do you have time to actually sleep? Do you and your wife spend time where you turn everything off and just have time where you guys can be husband and wife? Like, how do you do it, John?
We we're bad at that. We've made a promise now that we're going to get better at that. Nothing will make you realize that you need to stop and smell the roses more than a broken back. So
Mm,
we are going to do that. But it's the old the issue is that we enjoy what we do so much. I mean, I had to stop myself last night. I woke up in the middle of the night to get her some water, and I couldn't go back to sleep. And I almost came back in here to my office to edit some more last night. I had to restrain myself. I can't imagine uh, living a life where I had to muster up the energy to go to work.
right.
I've got to muster up the strength to not go to work. I've got to stop myself from going, and she's the same way. But this it's a movie that we're making right now that I think is very, very important. It's called To Die For. I've made a promise to myself and to my friends that this movie will be out in time for the midterm elections. So I have written, and we are making a film where a veteran is figuring out a way to be able to die for his country, even though it appears his country has vanished from the face of the earth. Um, so I think this is an important movie. It's the first time I've made a movie that really has any sort of a call to action, and the call to action in this movie is, for God's sake, vote. Right? Vote. Don't let anyone tell you your vote doesn't count. Don't let anyone tell you that it's already it's a fait accompli. Don't bother. And that's what this in one of its levels. That's what this movie is about. That's why I've got all this hair, and which I'm kind of liking. I feel like a
It looks great.
surfer.
Oh, stop! Come on. It's kind of reminiscent of the old days.
It is. It's very Bo. I haven't been able to do this in 30 years.
Now, something I saw you do on Facebook it was a few weeks ago that really, like I'm really into this stuff. Like I love old stuff, and I'm here in Nashville, and you were in Nashville, and you were talking about the old days of Nashville, and you were going through what was a hotel at one point, and you were showing like the back entrance, and you called it was known as the Elvis entrance.
The Elvis elevator, yeah.
Yeah, that was it. And I was thinking to myself two things about that. Have you ever like considered in your movie making adventures doing stuff like that, like documentaries of old things of like Nashville or wherever, or things like that?
They go away.
Yeah,
yeah. I would. We did a little thing. You can see some of it on my Facebook, not Facebook, on YouTube, called Artist Studio Access. And Artist Studio Access brings you into the recording process in Nashville. We're at Ocean Way. We're at Soundstage, recording the Odyssey project. So you can check out a couple of those. But as I was doing that one, I thought, before it all goes away, I should take people down Music Row, show them what 16th and 17th Avenue are like now. Try to explain a little bit like what they were like in the late 70s and early 80s. I didn't get there before that. But yeah, I think it is something that I would like to do. That alley in between 16th and 17th is really, much of that has not changed in the 30 years that I've been there. The faces of the buildings, and of course, a lot of those great old buildings have been torn down, and there are high rises there now. But it seems like that one thoroughfare in between 16th and 17th, behind Studio B, behind RCA, and behind all that, is very much like it was. Because it's basically trash cans and parking spaces. Yeah. But there's something nostalgic for me about that, because when I was recording in Nashville back in the 80s, Dukes of Hazzard was the #1 show in the world. And I really couldn't wander up 16th and 17th in a circle listening to my music. Because people would know it was me, because I had this hair, right? So I would walk the alley all the way from the Spence Manor, which is the building I was talking about in that video, all the way up to Wedgwood. I think it's Wedgwood, and then turn around and come back through the alley. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Now, was it like what's happened to much of the face of Nashville? And I realize there's a lot of people that are doing very, very well for that, and I sound like the old guy who laments the fact that the old school is not there anymore and all the old buildings are gone. But I guess that's who I've become.
Well, was it much different, like back, say the 80s or whatever? Because like the first time I came here, my very first trip to Nashville, just over 2.5 years ago, and then I ended up moving here a couple months later. My future fiance at the time, she's like, "Well, let me take you down Music Row," and I was like, "Oh my God, Music Row!" And we drove down there, and I'm like, I'm not impressed. Like, was there a time where I would have been taken down there and be like, "Oh my God, this is amazing"? Yeah. When before they tore down Tavern on the Row, before they tore down the Idle Hour Lounge, which they've moved. The Idle Hour exists again. They redid it, so thank God. But yeah, when you went down Music Row and you went to Tavern on the Row, you'd see singers and songwriters and all kinds of people in there. Because Nashville was not a stadium, or country music had not jumped into stadiums yet.
The biggest band in the world in country music in the 80s was Alabama or the Oak Ridge Boys.
Okay.
And I would, play with them. You'd play for, maybe 20,000 people, which is great. But there were no 80, 90, 100,000 seat houses yet. Garth Brooks had not happened yet. There was no barcode on country music.
Right.
So if you went in there, Bobby Bear would be there, or any number of great. Harlan Howard has his spot at the bar, and you'd hear people writing, and you'd hear it was real. And somebody might say, well, we're doing a session over at Emerald. Why don't you come on in? And they invite you in, which is what we tried to do, and I think we did rather successfully with Artist Studio Access, because you don't get to go in there. So when stadiums happened, all of a sudden, country music stars became untouchable. Johnny Cash was not untouchable. Waylon Jennings was not untouchable.
Wow.
These were people you'd run into who loved what they did, and they did write songs on napkins at bars. That's what they did. Lacey J. Dalton had a song that really, I don't think she wrote it, but the part of it said, "God bless the boys who make the noise on 16th Avenue."
Wow.
So all of that stuff was happening up and down the street. Broadway was a place where you'd go to get shot. There was no music in Nashville unless it was at the Bluebird.
Really?
In a studio. Yeah, it didn't exist. People used to say the only place you can go to in Nashville to hear any live music is Memphis. That's what we used to say. Yeah. Oh, it's wild what happened. Somebody tried to sell me the Ryman Auditorium for $400,000 back in 1982. And you just wouldn't go down there. Printer's Alley existed, but I mean, you had to go in mass in order not to fear for your life.
Wow.
Oh, it's an entirely different place. I almost bought the Cannery, basically for the bricks. But you look at that and say, "Wow, you should have done that." Well, it was just an entirely different place. And the thing that didn't exist in Nashville in the 80s was what it's all about now, which is this incredible live music down on Broadway. Broadway is really, it was a wannabe Beale Street, is what Broadway was. And they've done it incredibly successfully. But it was nothing at all like what it is today. So I do lament walking down the street and running into Richard Sturban, or one of the Oak Ridge Boys, or running into Bobby Bear, or running into some great singer-songwriter. But people would walk they'd get off the bus and they'd get their pictures done at Barbara Mandrell 1 Hour Photo. They'd go to Boxcar Willie's Museum, stop by Waylon's place, and then hope that at lunch somewhere, probably Tavern on the Row, somebody would say, "Hey, kid, we got a session. You got a guitar. Can you play that thing?" You just put your foot on it. And Skip Smallman would bring you in, or somebody would come in and from my perspective, Nashville was much more a land of dreams and dreamers in 1980 than it is now. Now it's kind of like when NASCAR was really NASCAR. Before, anytime you can become extremely wealthy for doing very little, I think it kind of pollutes the profession.
Yeah.
And is it great? Who doesn't want to get rich overnight? Why the hell not? I was just talking to a friend of mine yesterday, Marcus Dupree. Great football player. He's in this movie we're doing, and he remembers being at a mutual friend of ours, publishing company on Music Row back in I don't know, 81 or 82. And there was a guy sweeping up, a guy cleaning up for Marty. And then Marcus was watching television a year or so later, and all of a sudden there's this guy, and he singing, and he called up Marty and said, "Hey, I think I'm looking at Alan on the screen." He said, "Oh yeah, Alan doesn't sweep my floor anymore," and that was Alan Jackson. So
Wow.
yeah, so that kind of stuff, I don't think really happens anymore. I think in those days, I'm not a square peg or a round peg. I'm a different kind of peg.
Mhm.
There's not a hole to put me in. There's not a box to put me in. It used to be that people, the industry would hear somebody like Waylon or Johnny or Roy Orbison or Carl
Right.
Perkins, and they would say, "Oh my God, I just saw something. I just heard something. We've got to rush out and try to build a box to contain this thing."
Mm.
Right? Now, there's a whole bunch of boxes on a whole bunch of shelves, and they go and they say, "Well, I think we could whittle on that guy and make him fit in this box. We could
Right.
whittle on that girl and make her fit in this box." And that to me is a tragedy, because you don't get incredible innate
Mhm.
talent that way. You get I hate to say it, but you get fairly cookie cutter stuff. You
Yes.
don't get big and rich today,
Mm-mm.
right? You don't get Montgomery Gentry today. You certainly don't get Waylon Jennings, and I'd like to think you don't get John Schneider today. You get people who have a great dream. Nothing against the people who are whittled and put in the box, because they don't know any better. They're brand new. But you can't you can't go to a truck stop and buy a bandana and call yourself an outlaw. You just can't.
As much as you want to,
You
you
just
can't
can't do
do
it,
it.
right?
That's great.
And the business will do that. The business will say, let's dirty him up a little bit. Let's dirty her
Yep.
down a little bit. Let's make them an outlaw. Oh,
Yep.
give me an ever-loving break. You can't make somebody an outlaw. You either are or you aren't.
That's so true. That's so true. Now, so you just released your new album, Southern Ways.
Southern Ways. God, I love this album. Oh,
I'll tell you what, so do I. I was
thank you.
listening, and I'm not the biggest country music fan, and I was saying to myself multiple things. I was saying, first off, you still keep it that old school style country, but on this one, because I remember the last few, you seem to like just a little. There's a little sprinkles of that, maybe a little pop element to it to modernize it, but just tiny, very tiny sprinkles on a few songs.
Well, what we did is many of the songs from Southern Ways are in Poker Run, in the movie
Mhm.
we just did. So because of the look of the movie, I think we did it maybe a little differently. But it's interesting you say that, because for me, to me, it sounds more like the Marshall Tucker Band than we ever have.
Okay.
It sounds more like early Leonard Skinner. Although it's hard with today's recording. Today's recording is so amazing. It's so clean and crisp. You really
Mhm.
can't get that sound unless you put a band in a garage and maybe 3 microphones and see what happens.
Right.
But I am trying to. I tell people that Southern Ways has on it and is the music I thought I was doing in high school.
Okay.
So to me, it's new Southern rock.
Mhm.
At least that's what I'm going for. Um,
Let's
any
get dirty.
Yeah, we dirtied it up, and it's fun. It's all this it's fun. I wanted it to sound as if we were making it up on the spot. And we did all of the tracks in 2 days.
Wow.
I did all of the vocals in 1 day, so that in a live performance, by the time you get to the end of the live performance, you're hoarse and it's different. So on this album, I think I get progressively more excited
Mm.
but hoarse at the same time, because it was really, it was one performance, although I sang every song probably 5 times. And with a song like "Let's Get Dirty," that's hard to do. Let's get
You
dirty. Oh yeah, it's way up in there. And if you listen to that track really, really close, I have the background singers going, dirty to the left, dirty to the ground, dirty to the left, dirty all around. So I took a little dirty laundry and put it in there.
nice. Classic song. Classic song. Now,
Oh yeah.
how about the song "Southern Ways" itself, the title track.
Yeah.
The one thing that really, like, I'm a person. I don't care what type of music it is. I love to feel the emotion in that singer's voice, and that song was the one truly that I felt the emotion in your voice.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm a recovering Yankee. I'm from I'm a recovering Yankee. I'm from it's called the village of Mount Kisco in New York State. So, and somehow the world has made me the keeper of many things Southern, the fighter, the guy, the one lone guy who's still sitting out there fighting for the rebel flag.
Mm.
And so when I sing about that, and I sing about, I'm looking at this concrete mess, but it always takes me back to my daddy's catfish pond and all of that kind of stuff. Somehow I feel that more than I'm more comfortable on a dirt road than I've ever been on a paved street, ever. So somehow that song, when Cody McCarver played me that song, I said, I've absolutely got to do this song, and it's got to be the title track for the new album. Because it could have been called "Let's Get Dirty." It could have been called
Right.
Younger Man, which Younger Man I think is the best song I've ever had anything to do with. And Cody McCarver wrote that song. That's the one where I sound oddly like Johnny Cash. If I was a younger man, I'd tell you what I'd do. It was late in the day, and I was tired, and I was thinking of Johnny and June. There's no better couple to hold up as an example of what a couple should be than Johnny Cash and June Carter Cash. Wow. So he just kind of crept in, as Johnny would say, kind of crept in right over here through my ear, and that's what came out. So I urge folks to not only listen to that song and listen to Southern Ways, but look at the video for Younger Man.
I was going to say that because I listened to the album first, and then I went back and I was looking to see if you did any videos for anything. And then after I watched the video, like, it took the song and just elevated 100 times.
Great!
It did. It like, you have to watch the video, and that's where, like, I do these interviews, and 99% of the people that I interview in the music business, they get it about video still. But there's still one person that'll say, I just had somebody say to me last week, say, well, MTV doesn't play music videos no more. I kind of think they're a waste, and I'm not doing no videos. And I'm saying I'm screaming in my head, like, what are you thinking? And that video alone was the perfect reason that any person doing music should do a video, because
thank you. I tell you what, I did another one called Cowboys Don't Get Old.
Okay.
From the last album, and check that out. I shot it down at Whiskey Bent on Broadway. It is one shot. Nice. One shot. And I think that's another great song. Keith Burns wrote that song. But videos are important, and I'm here to tell. I'm going to toot my own horn. I did the very first country music video ever. Really? That's back when Jimmy Bowen and Bruce Hinton and all the smart people in Nashville told me videos were a waste of money for a country artist. So it's fairly rudimentary, but there's a song called "I'm Gonna Leave You Tomorrow," and we shot that out in Pomona at the Crazy Horse, I think it was called, Pomona, California. It's not the greatest video in the world, but it was the first country music video. Although no one but me gives me that credit. but I know because I was there.
When you did that, did it like ruffle feathers in the country music world? Were
No, they
people
just thought they thought I had more money than sense. There was no place to show it. Basically, there was no CMT. There were no videos. The only thing, only MTV showed videos. But Michael
right?
Jackson had just sold what, 30 million copies of Thriller?
Right.
30 million copies. And I believe that was great music, but that was largely due to the advent now of the music video. And Michael, whoever was running Michael's business and music videos at that point, they were groundbreaking. That Thriller video was unbelievable. So I saw the power that music videos had in a pop rock world. And there was no reason to believe why it wouldn't have the same effect on country music. Although I mentioned a little bit ago, we didn't have a barcode. Do I have a barcode on anything here? No, we didn't have a barcode yet on country music. So, there was a lot of shenanigans going on in country music at that point. Yeah. You know what a barcode does is it makes it so when you sell an album, or at that point a 45, it comes off its automatic inventory. So the record label knows how many you're selling. In the old days, before that, we had these folks called rack jobbers, and their job was to fill racks with your music, Turtles and all those different places. So what would happen is they'd show up the first of the year on their schedule. They'd bring 30 John Schneider albums to a Turtles somewhere, or to a Tower Records. And then a month later, they would come back and say, how many do you have? And they'd say, oh, we have one left. So that means you sold 29. But if you had none left, that means you sold all 30. But there was no way to know whether you sold those 30 albums in 30 days, 30 minutes, or 30 seconds.
Oh, okay.
Right? So you couldn't. That's why when I had an album called Memory Like You, and Memory Like You was the #1 album, but it did not sell 500,000 units. So had there been a automatic inventory replacement, for lack of a better term, had that existed, then my #1 album absolutely would have gone gold and probably would have gone platinum, because it was the #1 album and had 2 #1 singles on it. So, a lot of things change when they put a barcode on, and the music industry didn't want to do it. Number one, they said that, it wouldn't make any difference. And a bunch of artists like myself said, oh no, it'll make a huge difference. We'll outsell Bon Jovi. We'll outsell Bon Jovi if you put a barcode on here. But they fought it and fought it and fought it, and finally gave in. And the first album to have a barcode on it had a little song on it called "Friends in Low Places." So the phenomenon that became Garth Brooks, and Garth is unbelievable. Okay, he's great. I'm taking nothing away from Garth Brooks, but I don't think Garth even knows that it was his manager, who was my old publicist, who kept fighting for barcodes, sound scan. And she won. Her name just ran out of my head. Garth's first manager. She won, and they gave in and put a barcode on that album, and the rest, as they say, is absolutely history. The industry has taken full credit for that.
Of course.
I believe Garth outsold Paul McCartney. He outsold the Beatles in like a year. I mean, it was crazy.
Oh my God! So so all that time. So basically, country music was getting no respect on the business end, and wasn't allowed to have barcodes. But the rest of the music industry, pop and rock and all that, had it. That's so
Christian
crazy.
Music didn't have it either. Christian music didn't have it either.
Really?
Yeah. So Stephen Curtis Chapman didn't have it either. I think they got it a little sooner than we did. Maybe. I'm not sure which happened first at that point. But Yeah, they weren't getting any respect. But now that I'm older and I know a lot more, when you've got no accountability,
Mm-hmm.
when you're a record label and you have no accountability for units sold,
Right.
there's a lot of room in there. I used the word shenanigans earlier. There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
room in there for graft. There's a lot of room in there for a word we don't hear anymore, but they got in big trouble for a word called payola.
Mm.
There's a lot of room for people to make a lot of money that nobody sees.
Yeah.
Without a barcode. So what happened is they saw that the barcode enabled them to make so much money that they didn't have to hide it. Right?
Right.
So then all of a sudden the barcode showed up on everybody. And that, oddly enough, is when people moved from Alabama selling out 20,000 seats to Alan Jackson and Kenny Chesney and all of a sudden, all of these artists that didn't exist 5 years ago are selling out 70 and 80,000 seat arenas.
Wow.
It's entirely because, and again, not taking anything away from the talent, right? There are very few people lived on both sides of that. Reba McEntire lived on both sides of that. Okay. Kenny Chesney did not. Most of the artists people know today have no notion that there was ever a world where there wasn't a barcode.
Wow.
So all of a sudden they came into something. I think Alan Jackson might have lived on both sides of it, although I think he came in right after Garth and the barcode. Randy Travis lived on both sides of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely a benchmark, a milestone, the most important pivotal point in the world of country music.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody except us now who are listening to this are really aware of it. Gosh, I wish I could remember Garth's manager's name. She was my publicist. Pam Lewis. Pam Lewis.
Wow.
Yep.
That's amazing.
And yeah, I kind of got fed up and because I quit country music in '87, I think, after You Ain't Seen the Last of Me came out. And I butt heads, imagine that. I butt heads with MCA and said, look, I'm done. So I gave up that fight. And the following year is when Pam went on from being my publicist and other people's publicist, but she was fighting the battle for Barcode. And she went on and she picked up a new artist called Garth Brooks, and then and they figured out how to get the barcode on that record. So
it's amazing.
It is truly amazing, truly amazing. Imagine what Jerry Reed would have sold with a barcode. Imagine what Johnny Cash would have sold with a barcode. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, pretty crazy.
That is crazy,
Yep.
crazy.
Yep.
You know what they're doing now is you brought up Payola, and I've been throwing this out there lately on Facebook because the local rock station here in Nashville that I listen to, they'll play a new artist song, and now they say at the beginning of the song, this song is brought to you by RCA Records, or this song is brought to you by Sony Music. And I'm like, it's Payola right out in everybody's in your ears now. They're telling you straight up the record company's paying for the station to play this. I'm like, they just say it now.
Yeah, but it's that falls in the category of that's their advertising dollar.
Advertising, that's their way around it. Yeah,
yeah, but you know who still gets away with all of this stuff is the pharmaceutical industry.
Oh yeah.
They'll bring their pills to the urgent care facility, and with a couple of cases of wine or whiskey or or tea times or all kinds of things.
And a lot of free pens.
A lot of free pens, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on that we're unaware of. But we need to be more aware of it. Like what's going on in the world right now. We need to be more aware of it. We need to know that we are part of it. We need to know that we can no longer be complacent. Come November, get off your ass and vote. Don't believe your vote doesn't count. Look at what's going on in the world right now. We were talking before this. We have gone from from a world leader to the court jester.
Mm-hmm.
So we have an obligation as citizens of what I still believe is the greatest country in the world, where we have freedom to pursue happiness however we define it. We have an obligation come November to vote. And of course, there are people trying to keep us from doing that. And I realize everybody who's listening and watching doesn't agree with me, but that's okay. Just vote. Vote come November. And we've got to take our constitutional republic back. We just have to. This socialist Marxist movement that's happening right now in this country is okay. Many people have died for your right to believe that way, but you do not overturn a country. The United States of America cannot go the way of Venezuela, because too many people look to us, or looked, past tense, to us for guidance. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why people from all over the world want to come here. So it appears to me that our present administration's plan on protecting our southern border is making a country no one wants to come to. You know, there's a better way.
Absolutely.
Finish a wall, finish a fence, and by all means, don't complain about walls and say they're terrible and racist when you live in a gated community. Okay, I mean, for crying out loud. Do you think we're that stupid? But we have to remember these are people who are against the Second Amendment, who are coming into areas where people believe in the Second Amendment, and they're unarmed. You know, they're coming to fight the Second Amendment with a bologna sandwich or a mac and cheese. They're not the brightest people in the world.
This is true. This is so true.
I mean, I'm armed now. I'm always armed. Always.
What? I think I asked you this last time we talked. I'm going to say it again. Why are you not running for politics?
Because I like to make my movies. My movies. We have a there's a gentleman, the lieutenant governor in Louisiana, I believe is going to run for governor of Louisiana. I hope so, because if he doesn't, I'm going to have to. And I don't want to. I really don't. I do not want to. But you know, we've got to educate people about the glories and wonder and inspiring nature of the United States of America. Mm-hmm. We cannot lose sight of that in this present and the next generation. And you only do that by being a 61-year-old man who is in love with his country. So that's what I try to express to people. I do my podcast every Tuesday. It's called Don't Get Me Started. All I have to do is look at 3 or 4 boneheaded things that our present administration has done, and then I ramble for 45 minutes. It's easy.
Absolutely.
But, you know, what comes with it is a plan. Vote. That's my plan. Vote come November. Vote come November. And
now I was going to segue into come April. You have Boze Extravaganza. And
yes, I do.
Seeing
Alicia
it's
and
the
I are
last
doing
rally.
Boze Extravaganza. We've got it here at the studio. I'll be here. My band, the Stars and Bars, will be here. Cody McCarver from Confederate Railroad will be here. Keith Burns will be here. Joel Sunier will be here. Rockin' Dopesy will be here. As a wonderful band here in Louisiana. Also, Louisiana's LaRue will be here. Tom Wopat will be here. Byron Cherry will be here. My gosh, on and on and on. I'm jumping a car for our latest Southern Horsepower comedy. So I'm going to be jumping the Hellcat again. This time about 150 feet over some monster trucks. And it's going to be great. It's April 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. 22nd is for VIPs. We're going to have a big cookout. We're going to be watching Stand On It and Poker Run at our drive-in movie theater on Friday night. General admission opens at 10 o'clock Saturday and Sunday. Come on out and have a great time.
Now, this is being billed as the last rally. Is this the last of Boze Extravaganza?
Well, it may be, because, you know, as we talked, my wife and I, we've got to figure out a way to slow down. Yeah. And as Boze Extravaganza It's just a great weekend. But for us, it's 6 months of our lives. So it's a lot of work and a lot of planning. And the last 2 years, because of the COVID nonsense, just about killed us. We did it anyway because I'm stubborn and I refuse to believe that my freedom is a permission. It's not a permission. It's a right. So we didn't give in to mandates. We didn't give into any of that nonsense. But this may be just so she and I can go out, and her birthday's in July, mine is in April. We might actually go out and take a week or two off during this time. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, Cher, how many farewell tours did Cher or the Judds have? How many farewell tours have the Eagles had now?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see.
There you go. And one last thing too that I will throw out there that I saw that you're involved in, John Schneider sheds.
I'm in one now. That's what
I figured. I figured this is probably like all over where the studios are, where you live. And is that what inspired the whole thing and started this whole thing?
Yeah, actually, we always find something good out of bad. So when we flooded again right after Hurricane Ida. We started realizing that we could take sheds as long as they're built to code and ours are. It's kind of we found a shed to home niche or shed to office niche. So we got in touch with some friends. They're great friends of ours now. And we have probably 10, 12 shed to home buildings at the studio. And people come and they look at them and they go, my God, this is a shed? And yeah, this where I am now, where I do all of this. This is a shed. Wow. I do my podcast from a shed. And because it's a shed, there's you've got to be able to color just a little bit outside of the lines. So sheds have different designations and fall under different rules and regulations in most states than buildings do. Okay, so a shed is not a trailer. A shed doesn't have wheels on it. A shed is moved to an area and put up. So if you're looking for, I tell you what, where we really hit the ball out of the park is that people who live in rural areas who have some land and their kids want their kids to move out of the house, but the kids can't afford really to go buy a house somewhere. People are buying sheds from us and doing the drywall and doing all that, finishing them out on their own property so that the kids can live there. Wow. So it's kind of like a mother-in-law suite. It's kind of like that sort of a thing. And then when they finally can afford to get their own place, they move out. You've got maybe a potential Airbnb space on your property, or it's just kind of a she shed or a man cave or some way to get away from it all. So it's awesome. Boze Best Buildings, BozeBestBuildings.com, or John Schneider Sheds, or just get my app. I have an app. It's called John Schneider. It'll take you to the movies. It'll take you to the music. It'll take you to the sheds. It'll take you everywhere. So check it out. It's called John Schneider. It's free.
It's a beautiful thing. And JohnSchneiderStudios.com for
that's
all
me.
of it. There you go.
Yep, that's me. Hey, I thank you. This has been great fun.
Always fun, John. Thanks so much.
Fall back in love with our country. Very important. Every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
Vote in November.
Vote in November. You guys and girls take care. I will see you down the road, as they say in Louisiana.
There you go. Get to work, and when you come to Nashville, let's hang out.
You betcha. You betcha. We'll go to Idle Hour and have a beer.
I'm down.
All right. Bye, my friend.
Take care. Bye.